been a while since we've seen you. How's the period been, and are there any players back or unavailable for this match?
Yeah, it's been a good week. So obviously the result was disappointing in the way the game ended. It was obviously disappointing. I think we've kind of digested that and looked at it and learned from it, and trained really well this week. Boys are itching to get going on Sunday now.
In terms of the team news, Matthias de Ligt, Mason Mount, Lissandro Martinez, are you able to offer any guidance on when they might be back, or are they back?
Mason's back with the group, which is fantastic. He's an important player for us, Mason, and to have him back and involved, I think, is a good step for us, definitely. So he's not 100% in terms of back, because he's only trained a very small amount of time, but he's back, and that's good for us. So we'll see whether he's involved or not on Sunday, but it's a big step for him, so we're happy with that. And that's it in terms of players coming back for now.
Dan.
Michael, good to see you again. Paul Scholes made some comments after the Newcastle defeat, and he also said since then that it was taken out of context a little bit. He's spoken to you since. Just wondered what that interaction was like, if you can share a little bit, but also your experience at this club and your relationship with past teammates. How much can that help, defuse maybe situations like that maybe in the past do get kind of exploded a little bit, more noise on the players? How important can that be?
It was nothing, really. There's nothing to say about it, really. I think that's just where we're at in terms of social media and things and captions and quotes, and it can be taken in different ways. So just be calm about it and understand actually what the real meaning of things. Listen, there's different opinions out there, and it's fine. People can have different opinions. It's just things get taken way out of one extreme to the other, and it is what it is. But I'm not worried about it, so I don't make a big deal of it either.
Hi Michael, okay. You managed Morgan Rogers at Middlesbrough. You could well face him on Sunday. Have you been surprised at all at the sheer speed with which he's become such a key sort of Premier League and indeed international player? Yeah,
listen, first of all, it's fantastic for me to see Morgan going on to do so well. And he's did it for a good period of time now, and he had the initial signing in the January and wasn't really sure how it was going to go. It was a step for him, and hadn't really played for an awful long time at Middlesbrough, really, so I've naturally felt probably he could have done a little bit more, but as soon as he's gone to Aston Villa, and he's taken huge steps and quickly, and been a major part of their team and part of the England team as well. So it just shows how well he's done. We could always see what he was possibly going to be capable of and the potential there in terms of what he could do, his attributes, where he carries the ball, play off his left foot, play off his right foot, score goals, and really good athletically. So there was a lot of things there, positives, obviously, why we took him to start with. But to see him go on and have such an impact would probably be more than I would have expected, probably more than Morgan himself would probably expected, I think. It's great to see, though. I enjoy seeing him do so well. Obviously, when we come against him, it's a different story, but nevertheless, he's a good person. He's really great to work with. So I'm delighted he's doing so well.
Hi, Michael. Just about Jadon Sancho. You were here when he signed. I think he scored 2 goals in the 3 games under you. It seemed at that point like he was going to have a really good career at United. Are you surprised at the way things have worked out in the last few years?
You can never be surprised with anything in football. I think it's one of those things. Sometimes you come to a club, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't quite work. It's that's natural, happens at every club. Jadon's got talent, he's that's why he came to the club to start with, and he's had some really good moments, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I've not been here for a period of time, he's finding himself at Aston Villa. So he had obviously a good spell at Dortmund as well, and Champions League final. So he's certainly got talent, and he's playing a lot this season. So credit to him for that, and he's having an impact, you know, and playing a lot of games. What happens next and how we move forward, then we'll just have to wait and see.
Chris?
Hi Michael, you began with 2 massive games. I mean, I'm sure you'll see every game's a big game. Given the fact you're coming off your first defeat and given the situation at the top there with you and Villa, the points and qualification for the Champions League, is this the biggest test maybe since your first couple of games?
I think we're always in a test, you know. I think it's always about what's next, what you're going to react, whether you've won, whether you haven't won, whether you've drawn, what's going to be the reaction, what's the group, what's the emotions in it, how do we make the best of it, what's the motivation for the next game, and driving that forward. So I understand with it being the first defeat, if you like, feels a little bit different, but it's going to come at some point. I think you look through the league, it's a tough league. Most teams, if not every team, has suffered that in recent times. So it's putting things in perspective, really, and kind of putting it in shape where we know where we can improve, what we can do better. We're taking a lot of confidence from as a group what we can and what we show we can achieve and how we can play. So it's been a really good week in many ways, and excited. It's an important game. There's no getting away from it. It's a fantastic game. We put ourselves in a position now where there's an awful lot to play for, and so yeah, really embracing the situation at the moment and looking forward to the next game.
Hi Michael, JJ Gabriel trained with the first team again this week, and he's obviously been incredible over the last few months. Would you consider putting him in the matchday squad this season?
He's not allowed. He's too young.
How difficult has it been for the club to manage the attention that he has got over the last few months?
No, he's doing really well, JJ. We've got some really good young players in the academy, and we try and get the younger players up as much as we can, and 21s are kicking off in 25 minutes as well, so we're looking forward to finishing this and going to watch them. I'd much rather be here, I must say, but so yeah, we're always trying to expose and give that exposure to the players to come and train and feel it. JJ's a big talent. It's pretty obvious to know that, and he's had a really good season for the under-18s, and we obviously think an awful lot of him. But patience is important in managing everything that comes with that, and working with him, development is as we do with all the different age groups and younger players, and picking the right moment to step up, picking the right moment to leave them in a certain place, and ups and downs. And but he's done well. He's trained. He's done well, as you'd expect, and it's good to have the younger players come up with us.
Yeah. Hi Michael. Harry Maguire's been back in the team a couple of months now, and obviously been a big part of the early successes you've had. He's 33 now. There's an England squad next week. I wouldn't expect you to try and pick Thomas Tuchel's squad for him, but is Harry showing the sort of form you would have expected and hoped of him, and sort of peak Harry Maguire, if you like?
Harry's been playing well, I think. Yeah, it's pretty obvious to say that. I think he's considering you look back not too long ago, he was out for a considerable period of time as well, injured. So he came straight back in when we arrived really, and so there's been a little bit of managing him as well through the weeks in the games and the game, how we've had that, and getting him right up to speed, if you like, physically, and I think he's just showed his experience, in situations, the composure, know what it feels like, understands what it takes, and he's done ever so well. Whatever's going to happen with England's going to happen with England, but he's definitely put himself back in the frame. If he was ever out of it, he's definitely in the frame, and hopefully, from my point of view, yeah, he gets picked and he goes.
Huge challenge on Sunday, but analysing how we are in the table overall, we are fourth with the same point like Manchester United with 51, and they are third. And of course, everything we are doing, we must be proud of it. More winning than losing, but when we are losing as well, we must learn about how we are playing, or how we are responding, or how we are not achieving the good result. And even the match we lost against them last year, we learned.
Well, this is a straight shootout in the race for Champions League, isn't it, Kaz? Very exciting. Manchester United lost for the first time under Michael Carrick. Aston Villa needing to find their way back. They got a boost in Europe.
Yeah, are you asking me as a Birmingham City fan, though?
I was asking you to set up the game for us.
I've already have a question.
Welcome to Team Talk, guys.
Welcome back.
Sweating already.
No, I just mean overall, this game, like straight shootout for Champions League.
Yeah, no, it is exciting. It really, really is. Obviously, you mentioned there United losing their first one under Michael Carrick, and you know, I know Villa got a good result in Europe. Was it yesterday? Now I'm thinking the days. There's so much football.
Yeah.
Obviously, the recovery might be a little bit more challenging for Villa in that aspect, but it's a great game, one that for the neutral will be exciting. And you're right, like, who wants it most for Europe? I think Manchester United, not because I'm a Birmingham City fan, but recovery time and preparation time and bounce back, and at home you think, you know, maybe they'll be slight favourites going into it, but you can't ignore Villa, you know, a fantastic manager. And obviously, like I said, they got a great result last night, and that might boost their confidence, particularly someone like Ollie Watkins.
The advantage that Manchester United have in the race for Europe is that they are not playing in Europe. And I think they have only 2 games until the end of March.
Yeah,
it's a big advantage as well because Michael Carrick's had a great start with them. 5 wins in a row at home. Only Eriksen, Pellegrini and Ancelotti have had wins in their first 6 games. So if he were to win tomorrow, he'd match those guys. They're ahead of Villa, who have lost their momentum. Only 3 wins in their last 11 games in the Premier League. The wheels have come off, even though they're doing well in Europe. I can see a set of circumstances where Emery, who knows how to win the Europa League, he's won it, obviously plundered it with Sevilla, and he's won it with other clubs as well. He could get them into the Champions League via that competition, because I think the momentum might just come off in the league and they might finish outside the top 5.
That's interesting. Do you think you'd shift and then prioritise that?
I think
you'd prioritise it.
3 games, or is it 3 games for them?
Yeah.
Like, you can't ignore that you're 3 games away from lifting a trophy, and I think that's something, you know, you shift. And I think, is it 30 years since Villa have won a trophy? I think it's very much on his agenda to think like that, and I think Villa fans would be like, yeah, go on, we can win a trophy here, and that special moment, and if he can do it that way, I think he's spot on there.
Yeah. Manchester United in the driving seat for this Champions League race.
Yeah, I think so. Carrick has come in, he's revitalised the club, the players. He's got a much more common sense approach to the way that he goes about his business. You look at that fixture list, there isn't a game really that they'd have any fear about taking on. And it's interesting, you know, because they used to be the butt of a lot of people's jokes for much of this season. But if you look at their last 20 games, I think they've lost 1 of them. They are on a really, really good run, and that's because he's putting round pegs in round holes again. He is he's got the players playing with a lot of confidence and hunger, and when you look at him on the touchline, I've made this point before on this show, he's not that demonstrative. He allows the players to take responsibility, and they do. And you can actually, there's a big contrast between him staying on the touchline, letting them go about their business, and Tottenham players, for example, running every 5 seconds over to Igor Tudor. The results are great. And, not too many red, a lot of green. Kaz, you'd put them in there.
16th and 8th there for Manchester.
They should be getting Champions League football. I think it's a failure if they didn't. You know, he's, like you said, he's picking the right type of players. The games mean they can rest and recover. They can get that continuity. They can get someone like Steve Holland coming in and helping him, who I think has been brilliant next to Michael Carrick. Putting a game plan together that they can win results because they play differently. They can tactically miss it. And they're getting the best out of people. So, you know, keep it simple. You've got good players. I think the question marks maybe that we've spoken about Manchester United maybe last season and under Amorim will come if they get that Champions League. When you start adding in more fixtures, you know, as I said, less recovery time, they'll need that squad depth. But that's something for United. And
would you keep him if he gets in the top 4?
I think it's more so, I would say to Michael Carrick, you know, he's earned that, but whether he'd want to. And I say that is because about who you're going to bring in. And for me, Manchester United have been smart in bringing in Mbeumo and Cunha. No, just them 2 because they've got Premier League experience. So if they go and get players, Man United of old, of history, have always gone and got proven Premier League players that have added to their squad. Not risky players anymore. I think if they can give him that, I'd say, yeah, Michael, go sign it. Whether they will, I don't know, because there's other managers available. And, you know, they've had the kind of player manager, but I think you can't ignore what he's done. No. But I do think the question marks that we've had at Manchester United will come round. They won't have that luxury of playing so little and often in times to prepare. So they're going to have to be very clever in the window and pick the right players. And I think for the couple of players they have, it's been a much improved window. But you're not defined by this. You've got to keep going again because other teams will do the same.
Would you give him the job permanently?
Yes.
Yeah?
Only because I think it'll be transformative if they were to get back into the Champions League. In terms of the finance, that would enable them to get those players that you were talking about. I would have that caveat, as you say, but then I wonder if he might say, I can't turn it down regardless because he's made it work with what he has now and the players are responding to him. There is a respect, and that's quite a common theme through this, that those players clearly have for him, where they fight all the way to the wire. Sesko looks a player suddenly now under him, whereas nobody had any confidence in him before. And I just think that if they were to get into the Champions League, more players would want to come and play for him. So I think,
Let's move on to their opponents, Aston Villa. Should I ask you the question or what? I'm nervous now.
Ask away.
Aston Villa's form in 2026 for a
great,
side
thanks.
that were title contenders not too long ago. There's just one win in their last 6. There's only 3 wins in 10 in the Premier League this calendar year. It's coincided with the loss of key players all at the end of Jan, McGinn, Kamara and Tielemans. It's really hit them and they haven't found a way to recover.
Yeah, and it's hard when you obviously you've got a lot of money and you can't go and spend it and bring in and help. Like, you know, they've got an unbelievable manager.
Julia knows that.
Not true.
They've got an unbelievable manager and, you know, they're a massive football club, but obviously you can't, you know, your kind of hands are tied behind your back to a degree, aren't they? So that will obviously frustrate and kicking on. I'm not just saying it because of my allegiance, obviously, but I think they'll level out. I didn't expect them to be title contenders, given the squad, given the reason I just stated, and given how many games they're playing in Europe and how they have done over the last few seasons. I think they've done unbelievable. If they could get that trophy that we spoke about, if they could get Champions League football, I think that would be a brilliant season for Villa. I think it really, really would. And given the injuries and all the factors I've mentioned, so I think they would be thrilled with that. But I think it was always going to happen for them. It was just when.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the player that they did manage to bring in some reinforcements, Tammy Abraham, and I want to ask you, but I know you're going to defer to Kaz, so I'll just ask Kaz straight away. Should Tammy Abraham be starting now ahead of Ollie Watkins at this point, or, as some people have suggested, be used as a two-prong attack?
Well, all the Villa fans are like saying, give him a shot. They want Tammy in. You know, and I was speaking to Villa fans saying, you know, for Ollie Watkins, was he at his best when he was going head-to-head with Duran and the pressure of another striker? And obviously, you know, should it kick him on a little bit? Look, the manager loves Ollie Watkins. He trusts him. He likes his movement. He likes his runs and likes the continuity. But, you know, with Tammy Abraham coming for the reasons he has, he'll be, you know, breathing down his neck heavily and pushing Ollie Watkins. As I said, he scored yesterday. Maybe that will be good for his confidence. And we know that he won't want to play both of them together because when Duran was there, he didn't either. So it's one or the other. But, you know, hopefully now his confidence will be a little bit higher. You know, he's maybe taking a few more extra touches and maybe he has because of his confidence. So, yeah, I'm going to move on from Aston Villa now.
And on that note, this season's More Than a Game initiative has launched, highlighting the Premier League and clubs' ongoing support for communities across football. All matches between the 14th and 22nd of March will be dedicated to the campaign, showcasing investments in grassroots football, the non-league system, and women's and girls' football.
Teams lost their last league games, and with Chelsea just 3 points behind, neither can afford too many slip-ups. Michael Carrick's taken some time out to get involved at the Street Reds community scheme funded by his foundation. They work alongside the Premier League Kick scheme to give youngsters somewhere to train and play. And before he faced questions from Pete Moulenstein on his team, he was grilled by some of the kids in attendance.
Well, I understand that some of you got some questions that you'd like to ask, is that right? Play a little game, all right? So, shut your eyes. When you hear me clap my hands, first person to stand up gets to ask the first question. No cheating now, close them eyes. My favourite thing about football, I'd say I love playing with football with my teammates because it's not an individual game, is it, football? So you got to rely on your teammates, so you got to help each other. So that's a big part of it. And then when you score a goal, celebrating. You were quick there, by the way. Come on, number 7, come on.
What skills have you developed from playing football and going?
One of the skills I've developed actually is talking to people like this, so communicating to people. It's really important when you're on the pitch that you've got to help each other, right? So you've got to speak to each other, so that's one of the skills that I've learned as well. Describe Premier League kicks in one word. I'd say fun. Any other words? How would you describe coming here? Experience, good word. Anyone else? Excited, like that one. Competitive, that's a good one. Go on then. Development. Tell you what, they're good at this. You've been
from being the head coach of Manchester United. Let's talk a little bit about the football at the moment. 8 games in, 6 wins. How do you sort of reflect on the period so far?
It's been a really good period, I think, to be in this position. Once we started, I think we would have taken that, and it's all to play for. You know, it's the boys have put themselves in a great place in the league, but actually collectively in the spirit and the feelings is what we're kind of pushing towards, and some big games coming up, you know, and we want to finish the season strongly. But at the moment we're happy with the way things are going. It's that short that there's always things we want to improve, we want to get better at. Of course we do, but that doesn't just change and happen overnight. But results-wise, I couldn't have asked for anything more from the players and what they've put into it.
Still a bit of time to go, but currently where Manchester United are would mean that they would qualify for the Champions League. What would that mean for the club to play in the Champions League next season?
It's where we want to be. It's not easy, it's not a given that we'll get there. I think we had a lot of years where it was kind of expected, and it was just kind of what happened, which kind of shows now how difficult it is to achieve that level of consistency, and it's where we want to be, and for all different reasons, but just purely because it's such a good competition, and we want to be pushing the boundaries of how good we can be as a team and as a club. So we're definitely pushing for it. There's good teams involved in it, so we're not taking anything for granted, but we're really positive with the end of the season and what we can possibly achieve.
Michael Carrick for you there. So I'll come to you. Is this the real test for Michael now? Because he's come off a bad result. You know, some people were saying when everything's going well, it's fine, but you want to judge him when the results aren't necessarily going their way, or when the fans are saying, "Oh, the football's not great."
Yeah, when he come in, he was win, and everybody's going to get the job. He's going to get the job. What he needed was to lose 3 on the trot, and then to see how you recover. And when you're winning every week, it's quite easy. It's when you start losing 2 or 3, and then you want to see how you can cope with that. This is a big game this week. I mean, this is just an unbelievable football goal. It's just what a goal! What a goal! I mean, unbelievable. You get beat. You're playing against 10 men. Big football match this weekend. I think if they win this game, he's at the moment not been offered the job because of what happened with Solskjaer, which is unfair in my opinion.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, because when Solskjaer come in, you know, he done brilliant. You remember everybody was saying, "I'll give him a contract, sign him up forever." And then you see the pictures at Watford away when he goes over. He looked destroyed. Yeah. You know, he looked lost. That's not fair on Michael Carrick, but that's the way it seems it is now at Man United. Is, well, wait there a minute. This sort of happened with Solskjaer, and look what happened in the end. Different circumstances, different man. You know, for me, he deserves a chance, in my opinion.
I think Paul Scholes was kind of saying United, you know, they haven't played well in their last 4 matches, and sometimes they feel like they're getting away with it. Have you felt like that, Nathan, watching?
Sometimes, yes. And when I say that, I mean, you know, you've been in dressing rooms as well, and you've been in games where sometimes the team is just not performing well, but somehow you need to get a result. And sometimes, you know, you're the lesser of the opposition. Sometimes you're you know, one of the teams that's fighting at the top, and you're going to have days where 60-70% of the team is potentially not playing well in terms of the personnel playing. Yeah. But you've got to find a way to win. And I'm sure that he would have been in positions before in games where he's been in the teams that's fighting at the top, and you're going to have days where 60-70% of the team is potentially not playing well in terms of the personnel playing. Yeah. But you've got to find a way to win. And I'm sure that he would have been in positions before in games where he's been in that position. So if you're still winning, at some point you've got to turn the wins into obviously personal performances that are then stand out. But I think in turn, sometimes it doesn't matter how you win. You need to win, especially when you're in a position where it's such a results result-based business, and for Carrick himself, it's almost an interview within the season for that longer-term job.
But then, what gets him the job, in your opinion? You know, because if the team necessarily aren't playing well, but he ends up, you know, getting through those games and getting through those moments and getting Champions League football, is that worthy of giving him the job, or would they want to see, oh no, it has to be good football and getting the results?
Well, I think that'll be down to question. I think at the end of the season, I definitely would look at the sort of, you know, the run of games where they're not potentially playing well, but then can you come through the back of it and still end up performing 1, 3 or 4 on the spin and then having that pickup? But also, I think that period also of not losing games, but you're not necessarily performing. I think that's still just as important to lift those performances again, because you don't have to lose games to see how someone is, how they pick them up. I think sometimes just those performances afterwards, where they're not performing quite well, can help put them in the right trajectory.
Very quickly, Merce, do you think Champions League qualification enough to keep the job?
They play once a week at the moment. We have to wait and see, but I would give him the job.
Okay.